Interestingly enough, Alan Lastufka also talked about Buffy the Vampire Slayer in his Vita video yesterday, but where I talked about it for the full length of the video, he just referenced it at the beginning and then talked about something else for the rest of the video. So, I'm gonna talk a little bit about what he talked about in this video today. That made no sense. I'm gonna drive now. Now, I actually brought this question up in a video a little while ago, but somebody actually asked it in a recent video, so I'm going to answer it today. Weird Little Kid asks, how do I discern between what is a favorite and what is of good quality? I talked about this a little bit when I was asked the question, what's the best book I've ever read? And I pointed out that even though my favorite book of all time is The Time Traveler's Wife by Audrey Niffenegger, the best book I've read is The Book Thief by Markus Zusak. So what's the difference between something that is a favorite, that I really enjoy, and something that is of high quality? First of all, I'll say that in a lot of instances there is no difference. Because oftentimes what makes something a favorite is also something of high quality. For instance, The Time Traveler's Wife and The Book Thief are my two favorite books because they're very well put together stories. But they're also favorite books because they have fantasy or sci-fi elements in them, which is not something that necessarily makes them good, it's just something that I happen to enjoy. So when you're talking about something that is a favorite or something that you enjoy, you're talking about something very personal. I like fantasy and sci-fi. Not everyone does, and not everyone is going to recognize it as good because it's not necessarily good or bad. Whereas something that's of good quality is more universal. It's still very much opinion-based, but it's more of a prevailing opinion than just personal favorite. Good character development, engaging plot, well put together stories, these are all universal signs of good quality stories. But just because something is of good quality does not mean that everybody is going to enjoy it. For example, I personally do not like listening to the music of Richard Wagner. I find it loud and obnoxious. But I recognize that it is very well put together, that there are a lot of intricate things within the music, and that it's good quality music. So let's look at these two books again, Time Traveler's Wife and The Book Thief. I do think that The Book Thief is a slightly better story than The Time Traveler's Wife, just because I think it's a little bit more meaningful. Time Traveler's Wife, when you boil it down, is really a love story. Yeah, there are more complicated elements to it, but at its most basic level, it's a love story. Whereas The Book Thief tells a much deeper story about human nature and the power of the written word and death and all of these really, really deep things. And I honestly think that The Book Thief will stand the test of time better than The Time Traveler's Wife will. Which gets into what Alan Lastufka was talking about in his Vita video today about what makes something timeless. The Book Thief, I think, is timeless because it will stand the test of time. It is a story that is applicable to all time periods. Not that The Time Traveler's Wife isn't, but The Book Thief does it just a little bit better. But I personally like The Time Traveler's Wife better simply because it's a slightly lighter story. There's some humor in it, there's romance in it, of course, and so there's a little bit more levity to the story. It still has some darkness, to be sure, but not nearly as much as The Book Thief has. The Book Thief is really, really dark. And when it comes down to choosing a favorite of the two, I'm going to choose the one that has a little bit more humor, which is why I think The Time Traveler's Wife is my favorite novel. So I hope that this rather incoherent video kind of answered your question a little bit. Maybe. I don't know. But there it is anyway. See you tomorrow.